All right, hello and welcome to Dharma Dialogues, your monthly knowledge sharing session where we bring on eminent leaders from the fields of marketing, public relations, communications, and entrepreneurship, and we discuss some very interesting topics. Today, we have one such topic, very different from our usual series so far: global visibility, local voice, building South Asian brands for the world. And with us today, we have Amitabh Srivastava. He's a dynamic and accomplished branding expert with over 35 years of rich experience in strategic marketing, broadcasting, and media management. He began his career with the iconic Taj Mahal Hotel, New Delhi, and went on to hold senior leadership posts at various prestigious media organizations such as Times TV, MTV Asia, BBC Worldwide, TV Today, Walt Disney, and notably played a pivotal role in building the Aaj Tak brand. Today, currently, Amitabh heads Media International, offering expert solutions in branding, marketing, and channel distribution. He also serves as governing council member of the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia. Thank you for joining us, Amitabh. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Shutapa, to have me over here. It's a pleasure, and we've been talking, and finally, I'm here. So it's a very interesting topic that you've chosen for me to be here, and I think I'm quite excited to talk about my own experiences and the various levels that I've worked with, and I'm sure it's going to be very, very interesting communication for next half an hour, 45 minutes. I'll try to be non-technical, and I'll also try to give a lot of examples so people can resonate as to what is the point that we are trying to prove here. Okay.
Absolutely. I think the most important thing for any knowledge sharing session is to hear from real life experiences. So you're bang on when you said that, you'll share more of your experiences, case studies, anecdotes. And with that, let's get started. The topic, as I said, global visibility, local voice, building South Asian brands, media brands specifically for the world. And this is a very interesting time because we are building in India for the world, whether it is in space tech, whether it is in automobile, whether it is with e commerce or finance, fintech. We are innovating and building in India for the world. And why will media be left behind? So, Amitabh, having worked with global giants like BBC and Disney, you've had a long stint with them. What do you see as the core elements that make a South Asian media brand export ready? What makes them, gives them that USP and that preparedness, would you say?
Initially, if we talk early 2000, India was more of a outsourcing hub because we had the cheap labor, we had good technical people. But slowly and gradually, I guess we all Indian also realized that we have to think globally and act locally. That is where we started seeing a lot of mushrooming of smaller content to make inroads into the television market. Not only television, but also in the movies. I mean, if you go back, some of the hits actually made a lot of money across the territories like Lagan or Dangal. Dangal, in fact, made lot money in China, where
China.
there is no relevance of India at all. So that is a very good example as to how we started, publicizing the fact globally to make it as a global studio from the South Asia. I have another example of Panchayat,
Mm,
which is Amazon series, which made a headline, which is actually talking of a village story, not even an urban story, which made they have about 8 to 9 IMDb rating across the globe, and also a lot of fan following. People actually wait for the next season as to what's going to, and every season is better than the previous one.
mm.
We have a example of Bahubali movie, which actually became a cult of a sort because most of the movie was shot in graphic designing part, and it created a global kind of a earthquake in terms of the delivery on the international standard. In fact, they made a lot of money as well.
Mhm.
RRR was another example much later on. So we started actually publicizing the fact, because earlier, if you recall, Europe, particularly Amsterdam or Netherlands, used to be the format capital of the world. But later on, we started developing our own format shows. I mean, it started again when we had Z. We started with Saregama,
Mm.
which was a very, very local show, but it became a national hit. And then we saw a lot of season going further. We also localized a lot of shows, like KBC was an adaptation of Who Wanted to Be Millionaire, but it was done in a very typical manner, which was actually resonating with the Asian audience. So, slowly and gradually, we actually set up our own base as a global studio as well, not only India, but we started looking at the globe as a market.
And obviously, the digital boom, which has taken over all sectors, India's media and entertainment industry crossed 2.5 trillion rupees in 2024, and digital now is contributing almost 41% of all revenues. How do
True.
you see South Asian broadcasters? And here we mean both entertainment, your GECs, and we also mean, say, news broadcasters, harness this digital growth for global visibility.
See, first of all, it started with the India. I mean, look at the mobile penetration over here. It's over 1 billion. India population is 1.4 billion, and the mobile penetration in India is well over 1 billion. If you look at the TV, it's about 250 million odd TV homes in India. We look at the broadband penetration, it's about 800 million in India. I guess because I've been traveling across the globe, the kind of a broadband penetration that we have in India and the kind of rates that we have is world class. I mean, you don't find much cheaper rate across the globe as you find in India. So I think the whole revolution started in India, and how the consumption shifted from the TV or the theatrical experience to the smartphone. If you look at the smartphone, most of the phone are people are using are the smartphone. So the digital consumption actually saw the shift from the traditional mode to the smartphone area, where a lot of people are actually consuming the content on the handheld devices. So that is where we continued this growth, and obviously media saw this opportunity. If you see, the globally media had changed the whole definition, and post COVID, it was more where the consumption actually shifted from the linear television more on the OTT platform, because all the telcos realized the potential, because they were actually pumping the broadband penetration in India. So they became the career, and lot of people actually consume the content on the handheld devices, because that is where it started.
Yeah.
Uh, Slowly and gradually, we saw the production of those content not for the television format or for the theatrical format, but for the handheld devices format, because each formatting is different. So this is how slowly we decided to move. Uh, I worked very, very aggressively on the news television last couple of decades. And I saw how the news actually shifted from the television to the handheld devices. Most of the consumption, if you look at any news channel in India, they have a digital wing which is equally popular, and that is across the globe. It's not that the people are consuming news of India or from Asia on television. They are mostly actually consuming the news on the handheld devices or on the laptop, because of the digital presence. And slowly and gradually it is moving. And now with AI influx, a lot of changes are to be seen in days to come.
You mentioned OTT, and I want to come back to your experience with news channels, because a lot of our conversation will peg on that. I started my career as a television reporter, spent a lot of time in media as a journalist, and you spent so much of time helping build channels. So a lot of our conversation will obviously be around that. But before we start, you mentioned OTT, so when we look at hyper local vernacular OTT like Hoichoi, which is Bengali, or Sun NXT, they have shown how hyper local stories can travel globally, right?
Yes.
What lessons would you say can mainstream media brands take from them?
If you look at the old, I mean, I'll take you back in 2000 when there were only handful of the regional and vernacular channels, and suddenly you see if you go to the east, you have about 15 plus 20 plus odd Bengali channel. If you go to down south, each language has multiple double-digit numbers in the channel, which wasn't the case earlier. I mean, earlier we used to have only Sun TV, which was
Yeah.
yeah, like the only option. And I'm not talking the consumption in India, I'm talking the globe. Now if you go to US, if you go to certain states of the US, they are predominantly held by the regional markets. Like Telugu has a specific market in Los Angeles, or New York will have more of, x number of state kind of people. They were actually starved for their regional content, and that is the growth what Indian people have seen, Indian broadcaster have seen. And that is how we decided. I'll give you a very good example of Ashtak. When we
Hmm.
decided to go international, I was doing research to launch Ashtak in UK, and I realized that the news that we are showing here in India, people may not be the interested, because actually in UK, I'm talking specific example of UK, most
Hmm.
of the Asians or Indians are actually second and third generation, which doesn't have much relevance to the Indian news over here. What they were more concerned was for the Bollywood news or for the sports news. So we
Hmm.
decided to actually lay more stress on those areas to market those needs which was missing, because there was no content. I mean, 2000 early, I remember when I used to go to UK, I hardly had any options when I was watching television. But
Hmm.
lately, if I go, there is a whole menu widespread that I can get. And people are not only making the content specific for those markets now, which wasn't the case. I mean, it's not the what you see over here is being shown over there. As per the policy from the government and the regulatory authority, you also have to carry a lot of local news. I'm
Yeah.
not talking any Ash Tak channel or NDTV or whatever. So they also incorporated those local news from the Asian community, which was also getting highlighted. So this is
Right.
a very perfect example of the news. And obviously, on the entertainment side, if you see, very good example is the Kapil Sharma show. I mean, how it started with the Great Indian Laughter on television. Then it shifted to Kapil Sharma show on Sony television, and then later on Netflix, the global giant as such as Netflix, saw the potential. But if you see, the first season was not that popular because they were trying to actually get the families on the OTT platform such as Netflix. OTT was actually governed by the individual, because whatever consumption was happening more on the individual capacity. Kapil Sharma was the one show where actually family could take a part, or probably people can sit and watch it on their television. And season 2 and 3 are like huge success. So now people wait every week on Saturday 8 o'clock to wait what is coming next. And that is a very good example as to how a global giant also saw the possibility of exposing the Indian content on the international markets.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned this because India is currently, we are producing over 200,000 hours of original content every year. This is
Yeah.
as per an EY report, and that content is being exported to over 100 countries. Obviously, a lot of the content, when it is hosted or distributed through global biggies like Netflix or Amazon Prime, the reach is quite amazing because a
True.
lot of people around the world are receiving, watching our content, just like we are sitting here and watching K dramas, for example.
Right. Right.
But when we come specifically to, say, news content, right? And as I said, let's talk a bit about news broadcasters as well. When you look at the current scenario today, would you say that who would you say is the leading example of an Indian news broadcaster? Would it be Aaj Tak? Would that be a fair example? What is your assessment of how things stand right now?
See, I'll refrain taking names because the ratings over here in India, Bach, as you know, if you
Yeah.
closely monitor Bach, every week there are only 5 or 6 player, which, and there's a very narrow margin between them. I mean,
Hmm.
at times it's TV18, at times it's NDTV, at times it's Ashtak.
But would
I
would BAP
remember the
only
time.
look at India, or would BAP also
I'm
look at
talking India as the
global?
example, but then I'll come to the global market.
Yeah.
Now, BAK is Indian currency, which is actually measuring that. And there is a very thin margin between one, two, three, four channels. Earlier, when we launched Hashtag, I remember we used to actually have a margin of 50%. I mean, if Hashtag was a market leader in early 2000, the second channel was almost like double digit behind us, which is not the case right now. Now, if you look at the global scenario, now it all depends as to what is the kind of a distribution deal and the spread that you have in various countries. Let's take example of the Asian diaspora, which is very strong in US, UK, and followed by Europe. There are certain markets in South Africa. There are certain markets in Middle East. There are certain markets in Far East, and then there is certain very limited market in Australia also. Now, if you look at the globe, it all depends as to what is your distribution pattern over there and how far you're reaching. So that credibility is one aspect and distribution is another aspect. Quite possible the credibility of hashtag or NDTV or any other channel will be very very high. At the same time, if the channel reach is not there, that is only limited to that diaspora which is actually exposed to that because of that one particular. So I think it is a game of the distribution which makes the channel popular, and obviously the credibility is the most important aspect. So I guess there are only a couple of channel on your fingertips that you can count who are equally strong as far as the credibility is concerned.
I think you've given a very good answer, and I must say slightly diplomatic, but I think I would also agree with you, because when we and I'm loving this conversation because it's really flowing into everything that I have in mind to ask you. So credibility again is one of the most important things, especially with broadcast news broadcasters. How do we build credibility for an Indian brand the way, say, a BBC or an Al Jazeera has? What are your thoughts on that?
See, credibility comes with the faces, and each face has a cult following. Let's take a very good example. Here, I can name a person, Sudhir Chaudhary. Now, Sudhir Chaudhary was so popular, he had his own cult following. He started his program on Z DNA, and
Hmm.
Ashtak started with black and white on the same format, and the same format carried on DD as well. So, how a person identity clubbed with his credibility shifted from one channel to another, carrying the kind of a masses that he was trying to capture. At the same time, channel credibility is the most important thing. Now, what happened post 2010 is that there is a lot of commercial consideration also came into the news aspect, which wasn't the case earlier. So earlier,
Hmm.
people used to, when I was the part of the founding team of the Ashtak, I remember people used to swear by name of Ashtak, which may be the case right now, but it had diminished quite a lot because there is a tough cutthroat competition which had come. So people
Hmm.
have more option. Earlier, there were no options. The
Hmm.
second is uh, there is a lot of, I would say, um, it is also governed by a lot of geopolitical situation of the country as well. The credibility comes because there are a lot of people who are pro BJP. There are a lot of people who are from the opposition party. Now, if a channel is singing song all the time towards one particular government, I mean, there's a term called Godi media. Now, Godiya media means that you're actually pro government. Right. Now, at times, the Congress is also in the power in certain state. It's not that if the Congress is in power in one particular state, only bad news will come. Good news also comes in. So they actually do the balance. And it all depends on the editor and the editorial staff of that particular channel to take care of the credibility.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, news is governed by the credibility. And again, sorry to say, we have hundreds of channels, but only top 10 have a credible name. Rest,
Absolutely.
if I ask you randomly, tell me the 11th, 12th, 13th, and 15th channel, you will find it hard and you'll take a couple of pause.
In
second
fact,
point.
you're being very generous when you say there are 10, 12, because I think, I speak as a former journalist, and I will not opine on the gentleman who you named earlier. But the actual discussion and debate for the brand credibility is sometimes complete. Like for an entire channel, it gets thwarted because of certain shows, for
Yes.
example,
Yes.
which is a lot of it is there is warmongering, there is hatred mongering, there is fake news. Obviously, we see this in the US as well. We see this globally as well. How fake news is such a malaise, right? So it is always coming in the way. But I completely agree with you that it is absolutely up to that channel, who want to take on that stance of creating global credibility. I think it is a personal opinion. I feel a lot of news channels in India today are just competing among with each other in this small pool. So they are one upping each other by doing things which are getting them TRPs. It's become a TRP race. There's a question that's come on the same lines, and we have quite a few questions coming in. Urmi's asking, what steps can Indian companies take to strengthen global trust and credibility? And how can storytelling play a role in bridging India's credibility gap internationally? I think it's very interesting because I think, Amitabh, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a true vacuum which can be taken on by maybe a new broadcaster or a younger broadcaster who can come and bridge this gap. What is your opinion on this?
See, it's a very pertinent question that a new broadcaster or any newbie can actually take the whole system. There's a huge gap. But the problem is that running a broadcasting company in today's arena is not that easy. You need huge capital, and again, you need experienced name to run the show, which is not very easy for a newbie to employ or keep them on their role to have that. So. We can have certain programs which is run by the new young blood, but at the same time you need experienced hands to run the show. Now, coming back to the question of the storytelling part, it is very important. And uh, it is not actually, if you look at the news, let me to give you example, international example. Now, if something, you as you know the geopolitical situation between India and US is not that sweet right
Right.
now. There is a lot of news which is coming from New York Times or Fox News or from any of the international broadcaster. And what happened, because of these big broadcasters are running the news in one particular track, the whole narrative gets based on that. And people who are down or in the regional markets actually tend to pick up the more headline from those broadcaster, and that becomes the narrative. So the storytelling over there, what is happening on top big channels, actually get replicated down below as well. That is as far as the news is concerned. But if you look at the good side of the news on the content, or on a general entertainment content, I think storytelling is something which will always be a sure shot winner. And I think it comes with the credibility and the kind of innocence that it has. A lot of people are looking for the true stories which had happened. This is a new trend which is happening. If you look at any Bollywood story, that is actually based on the true events, because
Yeah.
people have heard the story, but to see it live on television and then try to resonate of whatever they heard and what is the truth, is there is a lot of gap between that. And at times, if you're making a movie, you have to tweak certain element of the news to fit the you know the
The
storyline,
narrative.
the
Yeah.
narrative, the storyline. And that is where it is very very important that we, whoever is producing any show or any content, have to take care of the authenticity, credibility, and present in a manner which people can resonate. I think honesty is the real answer, where the content developer needs to be very very concerned.
Yeah, I think of course, news, as we said, there is an opportunity for news broadcasters to create that dominance in outside India, and a lot of them are taking the strides, and it's a very exciting news is a very exciting and frustrating market right now globally. So, we can wait and watch. But where content is concerned, the whole creator economy is something that can also be leveraged. So,
Yep.
how do you feel, when we look at with 4 million creators in India? I mean, that's a 322% growth since 2020. So in 5 years, less than 5 years, over 300% growth. How can traditional broadcasters, and here we mean GCs as well, adapt to a creative first world of authentic, community driven engagement? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So the way you started this question with the tall numbers, thanks to the broadband penetration in India, and thanks to certain companies such as Jio and Airtel to actually spread the broadband in such a affordable manner where the consumption and the penetration was so deep, and so high. And when the penetration and the telcos and the OTT platforms were there, obviously it had to see the content because these are the platforms which were there. Now,
Mm,
to feed these platform you need content, right? And the content came from mostly from the digital side lately. If you see last 5 years, it doesn't come from the television channel, it doesn't come from a theatrical company, it comes from the digital side. I'll give you a very good example of BB Ki Wine. The Bhuvan Bam is a perfect example. He started from Malvi Nagar in Delhi in one Barsati, his own odd channel, and it became such a rage that he became such a popular that he was actually about to touch the double digit million figure as far as his own credibility was concerned of his own content. It had no surpair, but initially when he started talking, another good example which I'll give you is from a channel which actually did a trial on digital side called Teen Tal by Aaj Now it's a discussion which is based on daily news. Now, it's a very old program which started on the radio side or on the Spotify, on the audio element, and then later on it became the digital example. Now, there is a Teen Tal community which is developed. Now, Teen Tal is actually used to happen in the studio, and now they're going on various locations. And they have a cult following. And what they do is that they only discuss the news in such a rural and very homely manner that it doesn't look like that it's a talk show. People actually flow by, they relate so much. Or BB Ki Wine is a very good example, which started with a couple of character by the same person, and it actually transformed or graduated from the digital side to the television as well. Or Projecta Koli was another example on the digital
yeah,
side. Or Ranveer Alavadia, another good example, started with his own digital channel, and now people are actually Netflix is in talks with him to have a show on that, or any top podcasting is another good fad which actually came last 2 years.
yeah,
Now, a lot of people started, and I've been, working with a couple of my good close friends to do this. It has a huge scope because podcasting is something which is not the formal show like how you and I are discussing. Podcasting is that you are actually sitting in a very cool atmosphere in a very informal manner, and you're discussing life or any subject in a very informal way. And the
mm,
podcasting is now graduated to the television side as well. And
yeah.
if you look at certain broadcasters, so much so that the actually government recognized the fact, and they PM Modi actually awarded a lot of digital content owners last one
And
year back.
creators, yeah, correct.
Because the government also realized the kind of a power that they have and the kind of a following that they have. So all the people who are podcaster or a YouTuber or a Instagram influencer actually come with certain following, and they also I mean, they don't get into the fake news or any other narrative. They just do the simple job, and that is how
I,
they
I,
become
I don't know if I'll agree with you on the last part because many podcasters are also the let's just say that the line
unverified.
between
Yes, they do talk
a
unverified
podcaster and
facts
a
at times.
journalist is getting very muddled because
Muddled.
a lot of people are passing off. Digital creators are digital creators,
Yes.
so all journalists can be digital creators, but all digital creators cannot be
I agree.
journalists.
I agree on that
So
point totally.
that,
Hands
but we have so many questions, and we have about 15 minutes left, and I'd love to take all of that. Somebody's asked, how do you see emerging technologies like AI and Web3 shaping India's digital dominance? I think that's very interesting. Maybe a slight shift from our topic as such, but AI, we can't have any conversation today without AI. So your
So
views on.
I'll break this question into two parts. So AI is becoming very popular. In fact, 4 days back, I was chairing a session in Foreign Correspondence Club with a lot of people who are quite a big name in AI, doing as to how AI is impacting the news side of it. So
Hmm.
AI and the news go hand in hand. Now, AI is artificial intelligence, okay, first of all, but it is a very good platform to gather the news or verify a lot of. Ultimately, it's a journalist who's going to verify. You know, you can get a lot of outcome from the AI in less than few seconds, but ultimately it is up to the journalist to verify that news and make the final copy, because unless until you humanize the copy, it's not going to fly off. We
Correct.
also discussed very good example. I mean, recently in Delhi last week, PM inaugurated a uh, 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 two highways which actually connected Noida to Indira Gandhi Airport, and the punchline was same across, and that is thanks to AI. That Noida to IGI Airport in 20 minutes. Now,
Mm.
apparently, it was AI generated copy which got
Yeah.
replicated everywhere, but
Hmm.
nowhere it is on earth it is possible that from IGI Airport you can go to Noida in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, you know, at times people have to use their brain and verify the fact before they copy the narrative
Absolutely.
which has been shown. So as far as the content is concerned, yes, there is a huge influx of AI lately, but ultimately it's the journalist who's going to do that. There is another aspect of AI on the technical side, and probably I can name few channels like Ashtak. They started with the AI anchor almost 2.5 years back called Sana. Now, Sana progression, what when she started and what she is right now, is a huge difference as to how a AI anchor can also become an identity. Don't be surprised, 5 years down the line, you will see very few anchors and more of AI anchors in time to come. It is
Absolutely.
it is the trend which is happening right now. There is a lot of
We have
AI.
AI writers, we have AI influencers who've come up.
Yes.
So then there are all these AI influencers who have their own Instagram page, and they're doing so very interesting. And we are on AI, but I'm mindful of the time. And there's one question I definitely would like to speak to you about, about regulation. With proposals like the Broadcasting Services Regulation Bill, how do you see regulation shaping South Asia's global competitiveness? Do you see regulation impeding it? Do you see it encouraging the flourish? If you can give us your views.
See, let's take India as example, as far as the regulation on the television or on the digital side is concerned. It started with the TRAI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, which is actually the regulatory authority for the television lately. And yes, there is a talk that the television needs to actually have a different regulatory body. What TRAI is doing right now is that they're actually primarily taking care of the telecom side, but in addition to the telecom side, they're also taking care of the television aspect, and now digital has become if you see 1 month back, government actually banned a lot of 30 odd sites which were not actually doing good content as far as the Indian value system is concerned. That is
Hmm.
because they all the channels, in fact most of the channels actually had the million plus subscriber base. I know for sure at least 3 to 4 channels had million plus, because there was a gray area, there was no certain guidelines to monitor those things. They were taking advantage and they were making money, and the moment government got up and they banned the channel, everybody fall in place. So I think there is a huge demand, huge need of a regulatory body which can actually streamline the whole process. Now, streaming can happen on the content side. it can happen on the rate side, because rate is also something which needs to be governed. You cannot ask anything and everything, so that needs to be governed by certain regulation as well, so that it is available to most of the people. So I guess regulatory guidelines are very, very important. Right now on the news side, it is self-governed, kind of a since you are from the television background, they believe that we are self-regulatory body and we will not show something which is not right, but at times they do cross the boundaries as well.
Absolutely. So the thing about regulation, of course, last week we also saw another bit of regulation that came. Again, it affected the online gaming community. Many times regulation can come and put the brakes on an industry which is already flourishing. So that concern always remains. Let's move to the next question. Abhishek is asked, as India positions itself as a global studio, what key steps are needed to ensure that Indian content and IP truly resonate with international audiences? I think that's very interesting because here we are talking about the actual content. So, we spoke about Dangal, we spoke about Panchayat, um, just and of
uh,
course Kapil
yeah.
Sharma show as well. So very,
Abhishek,
very
I'll take you again 20 years back. There was a movie of Shah Rukh Khan, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. Now, the most popular aspect of that movie was because it was based on an NRI family, as to how NRI are, and it made a lot of good sense in the NRI audience. Or Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum by Dharma production. They share the same name as you. They made the movies keeping the NRI audience, because they wanted those audience to resonate with the Indian value system. Uh, and that is where a lot of content are getting developed. At the same time, I'll also give you example of Delhi Files. Now, Delhi Files was actually based on crime, but they won Emmy award. That was a very, very, I mean, Emmy is a almost Oscar for television. uh,
absolutely.
because a lot of people can resonate it with that. So it's not necessary that you have to make the goody goody story all the time to make inroads, and you have to touch only the emotional aspect. A crime story can also win Emmy. So it's
Mhm.
a wide area or a wide audience that you are actually focusing, and that is where you need to take care of the content which can resonate with the audience, because anything that you're making has to connect with the audience. You can't make something where people have no choice. I mean, those days are over when director and producer used to make the movies because they liked certain aspect.
Mm, mm,
The most important thing right now, what TV or the film producers are doing, is actually going to the audience to understand the need. And when the movie is made, earlier there was no TV shows, there was no road shows that every movie was doing. Right now, any movie in the Bollywood or any television show which has been launched actually have a press interaction, media interaction, because they wanted to connect with the audience. And I'm not
yeah,
talking India, I'm talking globally. And any
global.
movie you see, like let's take example of Pathan. They did a release in UAE first, in Dubai. Then they went to America. They went to London. That is how they launched, because they felt India is okay. India is a huge market, and you are popular. But what about the Asian and the international audience? Unless until you connect with them, your success is not guaranteed. So in order to connect with them, you have to go down to that level, to region, to connect with the audience, and that is exactly what is happening right now.
Yeah, this is something which I've been writing about a lot, is that today 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we always said the world is a global village.
Yes.
Unfortunately, now with borders shutting down and a lot of distrust, warring countries, the world is not a global village anymore, but the world of content definitely is, because the reach is amazing. I mean, we can sit here and be very intrigued by, as I said, a British village or a Korean village or an Indian village, as with Panchayat. We have the last 5 minutes, Amitabh, and we have three questions. So I'm going to request you to keep your comments brief so that we can take all of them. Vandana asks, What is the future of Indian content in ever evolving international media content consumer? What steps can Indian media take or should be taking to survive the tough competition? I mean, we've of course touched upon this, but some thoughts on that.
Well, the future is very, very bright, and what step you should take is to relevance with the audience. Now, any content that you are making had to be relevant to that audience as well. I mean, you can't make Indian content thinking that it has only the Indian relevance. Now, it could be the diaspora that you're actually trying to target, or it could be also the international audience. And obviously, content is something which is ever evolving. It doesn't stay same. What is right now trending may not be true maybe 2 years down the line. Something else will come. So whatever producer is making, I think they have to take care of the current trend before they actually go down to market to produce the content in order to survive the competition. Because if you are not making, somebody else will make. So I
Yeah.
think it is market info is very important.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. And Vandana, my two pies on this is that any kind of strong story will stand the test of time and it will survive the tough competition. I mean, look at Squid Games, for example. What a sensational show, what a sensational series. It absolutely was made for local Korean audiences, but then it's a global phenomenon. So similarly, Indian shows, I mean, the greatest testimony to our content doing well are, as you mentioned, Amitabh, we have Emmy nominations, we have Oscar nominations, and I think it shows that people are more and more open to Indian content. Brings me to the last two questions. Sidima asks, with digital and mobile platforms changing how people consume content, especially in regional languages, how should mainstream media balance making local niche stories versus content that appeals to wider audience? Very interesting. Like, how do you make local content as well, and then look at the international audience? And Smriti asks, what industries beyond media and tech show potential for high impact global alliances? That's a very interesting story question as well. So let's
So
take
I'll
Siddhima's.
go back to Siddhima's answer. I think the only answer is that if you can make a short form kind of a content which can be consumed, because if you make the long content, it's not going to survive. I mean, look at the success of Instagram. Why it happened? Because there was a short thing. When TikTok went out of India, shorts came in from the Instagram because they were very short and people were trying to relate with it. It became popular. Similarly, the content had to be, if it had to be consumed, it had to be very short format, and regional is the key because those Hindi and English is like passe right now. More potential is there on the regional side, and if you target certain languages and taking care of the credibility of that region and make the content, definitely it's going to survive in a much wider audience on a global platform. Smriti answer is what industry beyond the media and tech potential high global alliances? I think entertainment is one industry which is going to make a very big inroad. And now, when I say entertainment, it doesn't mean that content on the television or on the digital. What is happening right now is that there are a lot of live events which are also happening, clubbed with the television production. That is a new thing which is happening post COVID. It was earlier popular as well. So the live events clubbed with the uh, uh, TV production or the digital production is something which is a very, very high impact global alliance that people can talking. I'm in talk with one South Korean group called Blackpink. Now Blackpink is has a cult following. They have about 9 to 10 million Instagram and Facebook people. Now imagine, I haven't heard, because maybe because I'm in the 50s, I haven't heard Blackpink, but if you ask any millennial, they know about this group so much so. And we had some example of the recent past. Coldplay came in India. Have you seen the kind of frenzy that we had? And the Coldplay content will also come on television very shortly. So whatever they did on ground, those period will also become the digital content as far as the television content. So I think marrying these two from the ground to television and the production is going to happen very, very
Yeah.
shortly.
And since she asked what industries beyond media and tech, so I'll give my opinion on that. Global alliances on climate tech is also going to be very important. Sustainability, food and agriculture, again, extremely important. These are global alliances that we need, but that's a separate topic altogether. Amitabh, we are absolutely out of time, but such a pleasure having you with us. Some great insights, a very interesting topic. So, thank you so much for joining us on Dharma Dialogues.
Pleasure is all mine, and thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, and I hope we could answer to the audience to their satisfaction. But great being with you, and look forward to connect shortly.
Thank you so much. And everybody who joined us and who will be watching this, thank you once again for joining us on Dharma Dialogues. And we'll see you next time with another interesting guest and intriguing topic as well.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.